Hello everyone, how's it going? Hope you guys are all doing well. If not, as always, I hope it gets better. Hope you find your peace. But yes, so today I wanted to share with you guys how I actually go about remineralizing, and that's the white stuff you saw in those tanks down there, and how I go about it, adding that remineralization to the aquariums after a water change. So what I'm using is this stuff called GH Booster, that Nilo CG. This is not the actual package because we have actually used all of it up that we have. I have more on the way. But Nilo CG Aquatics makes it for $6 a pound. Super cheap. Best price I could find on it. And as far as dosing it, so what I usually keep it into these containers here. And then I use a teaspoon. Like, I don't even use these anymore. I actually need to just take these out. So I don't even use those. But I do use this teaspoon. And all I do is actually, well, I have Haley do it. I give it to Haley now. I used to do it myself. But for each one of those scoops, each teaspoon, so if I want a soft water tank, I'll put in 1 teaspoon per 10 gallons. And say I do a 50% water change. This is a 75 gallon. This is the Synodontis lucipinnis tank. I like to keep them harder. So I'll talk about that here in a second. But she's gonna, well, actually I'll talk about that now, and I'll talk about the soft here in a second. So she's gonna put 8 scoops of this in there. No, 16 scoops. Because we go twice. Is that how it goes? It's been a while since I've done this. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we got 50% on a 75 gallon. And she took out half of the water. So really putting in 8, that would be double though. That would be the double of it, what I usually did. And then I think we went to a third for the hard water. Because soft water, I would just only add 8 more. Or, oh my gosh. Are you sure? Okay, maybe that's how we've been doing it. Because the one thing about RO water and the calcium, so when you do use this GH booster, after time that calcium can get ripped out by the plants. People do need to be aware of this. And by the duration of it. So it is good to kind of get some calcium in there. The only problems that I ever see is with the guppies. They'll kind of balloon, or they won't breed out if they're not getting enough hard water. But I do use a teaspoon for each 10 gallons per tank. So if it's a 75, I want it hard, I'm going to go with 16 of those teaspoons in there. If I want a soft water tank, then I'm only going to do 8. So if it's a 40 gallon, I'd do 4 on a 50%. And if it's a 20 gallon, I'd do 2 on a 20%. That's for soft water. Then you double that up for hard water. Booyaka. And yeah, so then after that we just fire up the water and let it go in. I don't really give it much time to dissolve. It just kind of sits and dissolves over time. The fish never have any issues with any swings or anything like that. They actually all do love the water changes. And just turn on the remote, let the RO flow in. So that is straight RO. That's coming in at about 5 parts per million, which is pretty soft. And if you do have an RO machine, I do recommend trying to get a carbon block in front of it to help get chlorine and chloramines out. These are red tiger endlers in here. They haven't been breeding off that much. Not as much as I thought they would, with all this guppy grass in here and being in a 75 gallon. I think that's because the babies actually sit down on the bottom and the petricolas get to them. These guys are absolute scaredy cats. I can't even get them in shot because they're all hiding. But yeah, it's really awesome when the Synodontis come out. It looks like a huge school of shark. But even though what I was talking about too earlier about the plants ripping out the calcium and whatnot, I have gone months without adding really much to it. Now, if I did go months, I would add some to like my shrimp tanks, my Neo tanks. More of my soft water stuff, I would not. For instance, like all these shrimp, they would definitely want more calcium as time went by if you're not doing bi-weekly water changes. Granted, there is things that break down within the plants and whatnot. Food has some calcium in it too, so depending on your food source could depend on how much calcium also gets added then. If you're doing other fertilizers, what's inside of that. So you do got to kind of think about what all goes into your tanks as a whole. Bunch of little babies here, but that's how I do it. Well, Haley does it now. It's been a while since I've done it, and we've been monitoring it for a while because, like I said, as time goes by, I used to have super hard water. There was a lot of KH in it, lime, calcium buildup that got into the substrate that was just sticking in the tank, you know, from over time. But I think most of that's all depleted because it's been well over a year now since we've been going all RO. I don't think that guy's gonna last much longer, or he's just lazy. His tail's way too big. That's one thing when you get some of the fish, after you get them at those conventions, they're usually about on their last leg. They're older. I've had that guy for a while too, though. But yeah, all the tanks are doing pretty good. It's a Mia Mario. Hello, it's a Mia Mario. Then tomorrow, actually, I don't know what I'm gonna do tomorrow. We're probably gonna take off the tubs, top of the tubs, and go from there. Let's see, I'm gonna hit up the chat here. LR Aquatics, at this point, are you starting to think about KH? Done any tank tests for KH recently? So, Gary Lang, who's a well-known breeder and keeper, has mentioned that KH is important and that you do need it. Now, I haven't found that to be the problem or case, and I have not tested any KH. I probably should, even though those strips are super hard to even read. I don't know if I had the liquid test or not, but I have argued with them a little bit that I haven't had any issues with it thus far, and it's been quite some time. And I think if there was any KH in there, it's been gone a long time ago. Long time ago. So I don't know. So far I haven't found an issue with it. See, this channel is experimental as well. Like, you can't take everything as is. I definitely recommend everybody experiment and experience for themselves in some kind of form and manner. DWS 7898, finished my last college course ever, and you are streaming. Can the day get any better? DWS, that is awesome. Glad to hear it. Now you can relax, enjoy your fish tanks, hopefully. I gotta get that moved around. Rainbow fish are doing good, and they got their water changed yesterday. Home says, yeah, those plants look amazing. Is that due to RO water? So RO water does definitely help. Our tap water, super hard, lots of lime, lots of calcium buildup. And what will happen is sometimes the plant tissue will collect a lot of that, especially if they're slow growers. So that lime and calcium will actually cake up on there, so the plants can't photosynthesize right, and they can have issues with that. But for the most part, plants do like some calcium and some remineralization. Some plants like softer water, some plants like harder water. If you stay neutral, you can pretty much keep anything, and that's with fish and plants. And that's how this fish room's really kept real close to neutral. And when I talk about neutral, that's like 200 TDS. And that's what I'm going for when I'm adding this remineralizer, is I'm going for the TDS count, and that's what I'm measuring. I don't really actually measure GH or KH, which TDS can be a combination of GH and KH, but it can also pick some other stuff up too, like medicines and whatnot. So you do got to play that in factor. But this is the way I do it. Some people were asking in the comments how I did it, so I thought I'd do a video and share with you guys how I actually remineralize and get the hardness back into the water. Yeah, and these were just done today, so it always leaves a little residue. Now, if you did really want to go after it, you could like break that up in your fingers and like get it real chalky in there. That way it would dissolve a lot quicker for you. But I've never really found it to be the issue. I know the shrimp like to scavenge off of it. You'll have to eat off of it. Same with the snails. And if you like snails, you want to go snail heavy, definitely more calcium, the better. I'm actually probably thinking about putting some calcium in a bottle too, just so I can add more to the endlers and the shrimp as the weeks go by, just kind of like give them a little boost. I'm going to test that out here soon, actually. Alright, so try not to keep this video too long here. FishTube, thank you so much for the $5 super chat and the support. I appreciate it, FishTube. Says, I've been living the filterless plant life, and since I restarted last year in September, it works. And if it works, don't fix it. Exactly, FishTube. I'm glad to hear it's working for you. Mother Nature, I mean, she's been doing this a lot longer than we have. As much as we like to think we know what's going on. And that's the one thing I learned a lot about doing tests for water, about testing GH and KH and this and that, is that there's a lot about water and keeping aquariums that we don't really understand. And I think a lot of it has to do with biologically sound water is as important, if not more important, than those parameters when it comes to keeping healthy fish. So definitely thank you for that support and for bringing that out for me to discuss to people, because I may have not got that perspective out on this video without that super chat. So thank you for that. E-Jazz says, what are those white dots on the back of the rainbow tank? I have them too, not a snail. So white dots on the black on the back. So this is actually, those are little tufts of BBA. Nothing to be worried about. Tiny little tufts of BBA that are actually all over the substrate too. Sometimes low CO2, just imbalances can cause that. Same with right here. You could either scrape them off, pick them off. You can put hydrogen peroxide on it. That'll kill it as well. But nothing to worry about. Janice Lundberg, thank you so much for the $20 super chat. Man, I was about to get off here too, and you guys are just keeping me in here. Janice, thank you so much. And I did get some underwater footage, Janice, for you from Ohio Fish Rescue. She says, finally caught a live stream in time. Can't calcium increase the pH, especially if you have high pH? So it does and can act kind of as a buffer. Ooh, I think these guys are hungry. But for the most part, I don't ever measure pH. pH can get really wonky and really crazy fast, and it can lead you on a goose chase. And that's a big reason why I don't test physical hardness or pH, which can actually be per hydrogen too. So depending on your oxygen level, oxygenation level, and all that can factor into that rating, as well as the hardness and the softness of the water, because of the way that the hydrogens are exchanging through the liquid of water. So if it's harder water, it's not going to exchange as quickly as if in soft water or acidic water, which would break down that oxygenation more, which would lower the pH. But yeah, I don't really go with pH too much, because I've seen green water tanks, I've seen temperature make a factor of it, I've seen all kinds of factors in pH that can definitely lead you on a goose chase where you're trying to fight this and that, and it can get you in trouble. So I only go off TDS and have been for years. But Janice, thank you so much for the support and for asking that question as well, since that does tie in quite a bit with this video. So thank you very much, Janice. Those rainbows are looking amazing as always. I know, I love this tank. I'm always, every time, all the time. I don't think I'll ever get old or tired of being like, hey, look at that tank anytime Sarah or Haley's down here. These fish are just cool. All right, so now I think I am going to hop off here. Wait. Yes, because I don't think there's any last questions about this. Anybody got any last questions before I do, real quick? One, or let me go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. I'm in this. Thank you all for hanging out. Hope you guys may learn something. I don't know. It was kind of scattered, but this is how I do it over here. Wanted to share with you guys. Some of you guys wanted to know, so there it is. Have a great one all.